What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers, and today I'm bringing back the one, the only, Mr. Matt Shoup.
What's up, man?
I'm so excited for this, bro.
That was the best intro I've had like all year, and I think we did the most memorable thing that we've done in a lifetime, man, and definitely all year.
Oh, dude, I am so incredibly excited to talk about this. So usually I come on and I do a little intro and give people a little insight about the person, Matt, who's on here. However, Matt's already been on the show. If you haven't seen his previous episode, go check it out. I want to say it's like episode 81. I think we pulled it up when we were in Spain because everyone was like, "Oh, you got a podcast of that?" I think it's
back in April. Yeah, you launched it back in April. I remember because I was in Spain with my daughter and I was watching it, and that was killer, man. We talked about sales and just how to serve people and sell well and do it right.
Yeah, it was a great podcast. So go check out that episode, and from that episode, from us connecting on podcast, Matt was like. It was like he reached out to me because we recorded back in like January, the January timeframe.
It was, yeah. It was either end of last year, beginning of this year, and I'm like, man, it was a fun podcast. We had a connection, and we were on the phone about something, and I invited you to shot you a little invite, man.
He shot me an invite to the hike of a lifetime, and he explained it. He was like, hey, it's a bunch of men, entrepreneurs, business leaders, people that are, that are basically doing things in different industries. And we disconnect, we talk, we chat, we get to know each other, and we just have a hike of a lifetime. And I was like, you know what? I'm in. Let's do this. Right. I had no idea.
Too long or too much. And you were kind of a wild card, right? I think me for you and you for me, because we met on a podcast, right? We talked for an hour, a couple of phone calls. And you made a big commitment, right? Like it's a time commitment. It's a financial commitment. You're stepping away from everything.
Yeah.
And I think we're leading into it. I knew a lot of the guys that were coming, and I'm like, man, Greg sounds cool. And then we're like, we hope he's cool. And you're saying the same thing. You're like, I hope this Matt guy's not a schmuck.
Yeah. So and I kind of, and I'll be honest, I kind of drug my feet on like a lot of the preparation to like last minute. I was like paying the fees last minute. I was doing everything last minute. And but I cannot stress just how much of an impact that trip made on me and my life, and on my viewpoint. I mean, even the book you sent me by James Comer, James Mark Comer, dude, that book was phenomenal. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I read that just before. It was the last book I read. I read it in like 10 days. I was like breezing through it. Yeah. Great book. And it really got me in the right mindset to disconnect. And you telling me the moniker, the naming, the nomenclature of hike of a lifetime, I was like, dude, this is completely underselling what this is.
Thank you. It was, and we talked about this at the beginning, right? Because the hike itself, right? It's 72 miles. It's 6 days. We've got people from different age ranges, right? We've got guys, like mid 30s all the way up to 60, man, like Tom's in his 60s.
Yeah.
And he was quietly smoking everybody on the Camino.
He was smoking everybody.
The physical aspect of doing that. And then the mental challenge. And then for me, like organizing this event, like there was a lot of pressure, and I really put it on myself, but my two big passions in life, man, it's business and leadership. Maybe three, I call it, and just pouring into men and their story and their life. And then I've had this love affair with Spain. I studied over there back in college, fell in love with it. I go over all the time, and just every year for the past decade, I'm like, what would it look like? How can we get a group of guys, of business owners, business leaders over there, and just give them the experience of a lifetime, and just change their life, right? It sounds very cliche. Oh, we're going to change your life, hike of a lifetime. It's a very cliche term, but I think 2-3 days in, we got guys crying, people with blisters on their feet. We're acting like 5-year-old boys, right?
Yeah. Just joking. I had laughed so
Yeah.
much.
Yes.
We were laughing so hard every day on that trail. Some cafe con leche. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I got my 2 favorite drinks right here.
So what I wanted to do is kind of tell a couple stories, some
Mhm.
highlights
Yeah.
from, and we could take turns talking about
Mhm.
what highlights come to mind, right?
Yes.
And showcase this because this is just a snapshot. This is like like looking through the keyhole of the experience that we had. But I like there's so many experiences that I'm just like, man, this this is
Mhm.
it's incredible. It really is incredible. So to kick it off, what would you say one of the biggest takeaways or experiences that you had, memories that you had from that you want to share?
So the one of you that was just really interesting, and you may not remember it because it doesn't seem really big, but we all get to Spain. Everybody's in on time. We're trying to figure out the transport. Spain just had a big rainstorm, a big flood.
Yeah.
So we're like, are these trains even going to take us from the airport into Madrid? And we took you guys like to the dead center of Madrid. We get out there and everybody's hungry. Nobody had had breakfast yet. And I'm like, we're going to go opposite. We're going to do dessert, then we're going to do breakfast. And it's practically lunchtime.
Mm.
So we go to one of the oldest, most well-known chocolate and churro places, like dead center of Madrid. We go line up, wait for our seats. We sit down and we order, like 8 cups of chocolate. You
Yeah.
literally get churros in it, pile of churros. And you're here, you got your protein shake and your meal plan, and you're like fit. Like, and you've told me this, you're like, I prep everything. And I'm
Yeah.
like, here, drink a cup of chocolate. And you look at it, and this is where I'm like, this guy's gonna be awesome. And you go, F it. I'm staying. You slam the chocolate.
Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, we really dug in and experienced the food and the culture, which it was a lot of food, it was a lot of culture, it was a lot of awesome um beverages, right? Alcoholic, non-alcoholic, little bit of everything. I just thought that was really cool. I thought that was like a great way to pop off the trip. And then the food was amazing. And like, I like to eat, and I know you like to cook. You ate a lot, and that was a great first memory of many.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Um, one of the things that stuck out to me, there was a guy that was on the trail with us. His name is Travis. Travis
Yes.
is a doctor, and Travis is like this wealth of knowledge of the most asinine information. So you're walking down the trail, and there were so many apple trees along the entire trail. Like you can just find apples on the ground. And you can pull apples from the tree and just eat them. And he starts going on. He's like, "Hey, so I don't know if you guys know this," and he starts giving us this whole like science lesson on apples. He's like, each one of the seeds in an apple will produce a different tree.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
like the apples that you eat in the grocery store, like the Red Delicious, the Granny Smith, all those are engineered to be that way, to be tasting. He was like, so like natural apples in the wild, he's like, they don't taste the same. And most of
Mhm.
them taste pretty bad. And so he's like, see, look at this. He like pulls one, he takes a bite. He's like, yep,
Yep.
tastes like shit. He's like, and
And it
we're all
was
trying these apples on the trail.
like any conversation that came up, at one point we'd look over, we're like, you probably know about this. And he goes, actually, I do know about how
Yeah.
dandelions reproduced in the 3rd century, or like whatever it was. It was the most random stuff. But yeah, awesome guy. I think for me, the goal was really to get everybody to unplug and disconnect. But I think just in life and business, we're too busy. We're too proud sometimes, and I think just as men, we don't feel like we can go deep, in our conversations and sharing our stories and sharing our struggles. And I think just another big memory for me was really intentionally spending time with each one of the guys on the
Yes.
hike to just dig into where they're at in life. Everybody had a little bit of pre-work, homework, so I knew how everybody was coming into things. And then you and I had quite a long car ride,
Yeah.
unplanned car ride after the Camino that we can talk about.
So yeah, so when we got done with the Camino, we started in Sarria and we ended in Santiago. And so so just to give everyone a little bit, I'm gonna back up even more. So we fly into Madrid. and we're there for what, 4 hours, maybe 5 hours ish.
Yeah, you guys land at like 10, you're out at 11, and our flight to Santiago, yeah, it was 5 hours that we had
5 hours. And
before coming.
so then you fly from Madrid to Santiago, and then we got in a car when we got there. We got some packets. We met the travel agency, and Conchita, who is awesome. And then we got in a vehicle and we drove all the way to Sadia. And so it was like a hour and a half, 2 hour drive almost. So we drive to Sadia, we get our hotel, and the next day we start. So we're walking from Sadia all the way back to Santiago. We're there. We got to Santiago at night, as a mid-afternoon. We stayed the night, and early in the morning, we had to get to the airport to fly to Madrid. We stayed the whole day in Madrid, stayed the night, and then flew out the next morning to come back home. So it ended up being like a 9-day total trip.
Yeah.
So when we got to Santiago to fly to Madrid the next morning, they didn't have me on the flight roster. And it was a shit show, bro. And I was just like, man, it'll work out. Like, it'll work out. But I go to check. I was the first one to check in. I go to check in, and they're like, hey, you're not on the flight. We overbooked, and you're one of the extras. So I was like, okay. And so I looked at, and they speak all Spanish. Like, they very, very little English. Yeah. Matt speaks Spanish like a local. So Matt comes over and he's talking to them, and he's like, hey, so it seems that they overbooked you, blah, blah. So he's like, well, we're going to see if we're overbooked. Everyone else in the group, not overbooked. You guys were all on the flight. So they're like, hey, you have to go check your bags. You got to go to the terminal, and then you got to see if you can get a seat at the terminal. So we go all the way in, we go through security, we get to the terminal, no one's there. We had to wait till like literally, what was it, like 15, 20 minutes before the flight started boarding when someone finally got to the terminal.
Somebody gets there, and then they're like, I can't help you. We got to board the plane. And I'm like, how many seats are here? And then they go, oh yeah, but 45 minutes before, if nobody's checked in, we'll get you on. And then, I mean, we were the last two doofuses probably, right? In their eyes, standing there. Then there's two people standing behind us. I think we got hoodwinked, honestly.
Yeah,
the way it all worked out.
We got hoodwinked.
We got hoodwinked, man. But it's okay. We had a great adventure.
So we ended up getting a rental car.
Mm-hmm.
So the flight from Santiago to Madrid is about an hour, not even.
Yeah.
It's just like the plane goes up, it goes right back down. The drive from Santiago to Madrid is like 5 hours.
Well, no. It's supposed to be, like, you put it in the map, it's 6 hours and 25 minutes.
Yeah. And so it was like, hey, we're going to get a rental car, and we had to wait for our bags to come off the plane because they couldn't take them to Madrid. Mm-hmm. We had to wait for that. We got a rental car. We had to go through the hoops because they had to refund me for my ticket. Mm-hmm. And then we got in the car and we just started booking it and just got on the road and drove from northern Spain down to Madrid. And it was completely unplanned, but it was like 5 hours of us in the car just talking and getting to know each other better. And that was one of the best experiences.
That was fun, man. Yeah. And it's like, and the goal too, it was, we got to be butts in seat right outside in a little suburb of Madrid at a really great friend of mine's restaurant who was putting together a really special lunch for us. So like, that was the motivation. And man, I was so frustrated inside at the airport. And then when it's like, you know what, it is what it is, you adapt, you adjust, and then you go for it.
And we got there right on time.
We literally were booking and cooking.
Yeah.
Butts in seat and food's on the table. And it was great. And then we had a great rest of the experience there.
Yeah. Great rest of the trip in Madrid. And that was phenomenal. The views, man. Another memory to caveat off of what you were just saying. I didn't think that I would connect with every single person as much as I did, but it happened organically. That as you're going on the trail, that sometimes I'd be walking with Travis, and then sometimes I'd be walking with Chris. Sometimes I'd be walking with Tom, right? Sometimes I'll walk with you. Sometimes I'll walk with Bob. And in every single person, I got to know on a deeper level. Mm-hmm. And it just happened organically. And we just took advantage because our phones aren't working. We put on airplane mode, and I was using Wi-Fi for most of the trip. There's parts of the trip where I turned on my data and I pay for data for the day, but you're completely disconnected. And there's something that is healing about that, just being disconnected. And so completely disconnected. You're on this trail. It kind of sucks. My legs were sore. My calves were sore. my feet hurt, you know, and you're just like, oh well, let's do this. And you're all sucking together and you
Yeah.
pass the time with those conversations.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that one of the memories I had I'm very fond is making the video. when I made so I made a joke video because we started coming up with all these jokes.
Yes.
And so we were joking about Tom, not Tom, we were joking
Travis.
about Travis. We're talking
Mhm.
about Travis because he knew all this stuff and how he was a doctor. And so I made this like kind of faux Travis video, like I was Travis, and I knew all this information, and I was saying all the wrong stuff purposely. They're like, "Hey, come see me. I'm Travis," and we recorded it on the trail because we were so far ahead. It was Brian. Is it?
Brian.
It was
Yeah,
Brian.
it's
It
our
was Brian. It was
videographer
Brian
was
and I.
there.
Brian and I were so far ahead on the trail, and we kept getting so far ahead that we would like pause. And I was like, "Hey, I got some ideas," and because we were chatting back and forth about it, and we came with this whole idea and the entire script. And so he pulled out my camera and I just started recording. I spliced it, edited it, and then we went to lunch right after that. No, it was like an early dinner. It was supposed to be a late lunch, but we ended up being dinner for us because it was such a big meal.
Yeah,
That was
that
the
was
meal that
big.
was
Yep.
like
Mhm.
he kept bringing out meat and meat and meat.
That was crazy.
The
That
meat,
even like, you stopped eating,
yeah,
and I felt like at the end of every meal, you still could have eaten another steak, but, like,
yes, yeah.
you stopped eating at
I
the
was
end.
like, they were like, "Hey, Greg, it was still like four more steaks there." I was like, "Guys, I'm done. I can't. I'm done." and so, and so, I literally, as he was cooking the food for us, because we were the only people in that restaurant,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there editing the video and putting music, and I found like the perfect track, and I started showing it to every individual person, and they were just cracking up. They were like, "Oh my god, that's so good!" And I wouldn't show it to Travis, so
Yeah.
I put it around the entire table, showed it to everybody. Finally, Travis got to see it, and he was laughing his ass off.
He was digging it.
That was a good time, man.
You know what was really cool, and this was totally unplanned, and it was the third day. So we hike into Melide, and
Mhm,
Melide is known for just world class, high quality octopus.
mhm.
And there's this massive restaurant. Everybody goes there. Like anybody that wants to try pulpo, right? Octopus, they go to this restaurant. So we got there a little bit early. We reserve a table. It's hopping. It's slammed. You guys come in, and we got big spread of food, which was pretty typical. And then as we're eating, we're seeing people come in with like white t-shirts, and they were writing sayings and phrases, or like, hey, we're the whatever family, this is like our clan. So it was like little, almost like little fraternities. And like, what is this? And then we start seeing people come in, those white shirts are pink. I'm like, what? People are soaked, like, and they smell like wine. Oh, they're covered in wine. What's going on? And we asked one of the waiters, right? He goes, oh no, it's the Festival de los Borrachos. So it's like the party of the drunks. And I go, what is that? Like, we just happened to have scheduled this, right? And I didn't look at Spanish festivals, to where we're going to arrive, best octopus in the world. And then, oh, they just go, yeah, just right past your hotel, there's a fountain. And then right behind that fountain, there's like 4 square blocks of everybody, men, women, children, like 5-year-olds to 80-year-olds, that are going to have bottles of wine. Kids have squirt guns with wine,
Yeah.
and you're just going to go up and down the streets, and there's a party, and we're sitting there, like we had just hiked 3 days. What did we hike at that point? 40 miles, probably.
Yeah, so
We,
the first day was like 16 miles, second day was like 15, third.
we're 40 miles in,
Yeah,
yes, very,
we're 40 miles.
very front loaded, and we're like, you want to go to a party? Like, so we get like t-shirts, and then we went to just a Spanish party, and I mean,
It was dude, it was a block party like I've never seen.
It's the comparison of like a fraternity party in college, right? And all of the fraternities are literally within 2 square blocks, and they all fill out into the streets, and then they invite their extended family, their grandmas and their kids,
Yeah.
right? And it was crazy, and it was just really cool to see, like, after getting to know these guys for 3 days. And we have one guy, Chris, like, he does not drink, and he's just chilling up on the wall. He's got his water or his Coke, right? And everybody's just doing their thing, and then you're out there, you took your shirt off, and
Took
you're
my
doing
shirt off. They were dancing the street and they were playing like drums and shit. And they were like, dude, go take your shirt off. I was like, and I got out there and I started dancing, and I was like looking back and I was like, this is kind of awkward. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. And I turned around and I looked at him, I was like, It's
Yeah.
going down.
And it's funny because like as much as there was the, there was the opportunity to go, hey, that we can like go back to, college days and party.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see everybody with the limited amount of Spanish that they had. And it's loud. You can't really hear what's going on. Just how you were able to connect with other people from another culture, with body language and hand gestures. And you guys are pulling me trying to translate. I'm like, I can't translate for everybody. And we met some really, really awesome people.
Yeah.
And then
We started signing Travis's shirt.
everybody's signing shirts and everything. So that was just a cool experience that was really, really unplanned. I think the biggest lesson for me facilitating this experience, because we have another one in April, is I'm a planner. I'm very regimented. I'm like, here's the outcomes I know everybody wants to have. You guys told me this is what I want to work on. This is what I want to go through and deal with. So I plan these kind of events and themes of the day. We had the envelopes every day. And as I'm going along, I'm like, these things are happening, but not so much because of the envelopes, but maybe just the promptings in them and just the organic way that stuff all played out. So I really feel like in an experience like this, you can't force certain things. And the more you try to force like certain interactions, engagements versus just having that open invitation and letting people walk. And it was really cool to see.
Yeah. I felt like I was telling Brian, it was like day 2 or something. And I was like, dude, I feel like we're like in a Dungeons and Dragons like group. And all of us are a different class, right? I was like, you got Travis, who's like the healer.
Yes.
You got Brian, who was like the scribe, he's just like documenting everything. And so was Bob. I was like, Tom's a silent ninja. No one knows. He's like super quiet, but he's that guy that like when like the chips are down, he comes up with like the finisher move that like saves all of us. We're like, dude, where have you been all this time?
He was, quiet, calm, cool, and then just comes out of nowhere with like insight and humor. I remember the last day when we were lining up to take that photo, and somebody was like, "Oh, keep your hand off his butt." He's like, "You can touch my butt. It's okay." Just,
And he's just a quiet, like 60-something-year-old guy, just real unassuming. You got Chris, who was like the barbarian. He's just bashing people with his fists, And so I was like, but we're like this ragtag group of individuals that all have our own individual strengths, our own different personalities, and we're traveling literally across the country. We're going on this cross-country hike through the countryside. We're going through towns. Every 1.5 to 2 kilometers, we're going through a little town, a little hovel. We're stopping by little shops, which brings me to my next and you know what I'm gonna say. So
one of two, there were one of two that were very memorable for me. Yeah.
So when we first get there, as he said earlier, we're talking about food. And I'm like, hey guys, as long as I can get some meat, I need to make sure I hit my protein. And he says, oh yeah, he says the word for meat is boya, right? And I was like, and so I thought he said boya. And so I was like, oh, that's easy. And then I was like, and then the way I literally remember is I'm gonna say, boy, I'd really like some meat. I literally said that. Yeah. So I was like, so it locked in my memory. So this is like day 3. And we stop at this little coffee shop, and it's called Essentials. I still remember this. It was Essentials. Yes. It was Essentials Coffee Shop. It was beautiful. It was really nice. It was a house that they reconstructed. They were living upstairs. The whole bottom stairs was like a cafe with food, and they had Spanish tortillas and all that stuff. And we stopped for coffee, and it was 3 generations of a family. It was the grandfather, the father, and the son. They're all back there. The father and son were sitting there cutting up potatoes and onions to prep the tortillas, to cook the tortillas. And the grandfather was making cafe con leche. And so I ordered some cafe con leche, and then I said, do you guys have a boya? And literally, like, you looked at me, you were like this, and I was like, what? Boya. and he holds up some bread. He was like, boya. And you rush up, you're like, hey, I was just kidding. I was like, what? He was like, you're like, hey, poya means penis.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I didn't know. He's like, I thought you knew. I was like, no, I didn't know. So literally, even though I said it wrong and they thought I said bread, I basically asked them if they had any penis there.
Well, and I just, there's again, we were goofing around a little bit, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm gonna tell these guys that this word means something else, have them go, and it was fun, right? And
Yeah.
everybody laughed, but everybody, I thought by day 3, everybody knew that. I thought you had seen the other 5 guys.
I didn't catch it.
You sure didn't,
I did
yeah.
not
But
catch it.
after that, it was great. It
We
was great.
laughed so hard after that, though. They were laughing, and they kept like every time we went somewhere, they're like, "Hey, Greg, you guys some Sequoia?" Like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
like, oh
that
man, I'm not
was
gonna outlive this.
so it's funny, man, like, we, just all the fun and the laughter, like, what were some of your big takeaways just for you, like, professionally, personally, as a dad, right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like, I mean, this thing was so much fun, so much laughter,
Mhm.
but we went over there for leadership, and I
Yeah.
remember, like, our final drive back, seeing if we were even gonna make it to the airport on the last day because of all the rain and
Mhm.
flooding, but, like, what were some big takeaways for you? Um,
The biggest takeaway that I've talked a lot about since I came back was being intentional and being
mhm,
present.
yeah,
Being present with somebody, um, and disconnecting really helps with that. I felt like I was way more present, which was more fulfilling in the conversations I had. I know for them, but also for me.
mhm,
And not always having to be like, oh man, I got a text, or oh, I got a ding, or like, oh, I got to check this, or like I'm talking to somebody and it's a great conversation, but my phone's like bzz, 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 and I'm thinking like, man, I got to see who that is, and I'm not paying attention to the conversation I'm having. And so I've learned to be okay with like, I'm just gonna put my phone on do not disturb, and I don't care. Like I'll get to it when I get to it. It'll be all right. And
mhm,
I'm gonna be intentional with the person that I'm sitting in front of. And it really made me think a lot about my kids and like how I've been with them in the past with business, because business can be overwhelming. Business can take a lot of our time and our attention. And really just saying, when I spend time with my kids, when I call them and I'm on FaceTime or I'm in their presence, I'm gonna be intentional with them. I'm gonna make
mhm.
sure that I'm giving them all of my attention, right?
Yes.
That was the biggest takeaway, and just being able to open up and hearing all these different stories and challenges that each individual person was having, and wanting to provide value. Like I had a great conversation with Chris where we
Mhm.
just started talking about his business. And
Yes.
he started talking about like all these things he was thinking about. And I was like, dude, and we started like game planning, like what to do. Like, hey, I think the first step is this and this and this. Like, and being able to help and pour into people like that, it was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. What I remember, I think individually, some of the big ahas and takeaways from each one of the people, because like it's business guys, right? It's business professionals. So like we're having business conversations, but when you strip down to what's on your back, right? We have little day packs. You got water, your hiking sticks, like
On my
that's
protein powder.
I mean, you got a big bag of protein powder. You probably got a steak in there too, right? You're like,
Yeah.
but like when it strips down to just those bare essentials, it's like you got food, you got water, shelter if we need it. There's a day we just got massively rained on, and you can strip away all the high level layers of business. What all these guys were so intentional about, so excited about, passionate about were their kids.
Mhm.
And I mean, the deepest conversations that I was like, what kind of father do you want to be? What kind of story do you want to leave? How have you been as a father? Like where we all dropped the ball, right? We all talked about that. And then like I really saw that in everybody. And I think even layer above that is just like their faith and the bigger picture of like why they're here on this planet, where they're going. Afterwards, that was something we really, really focused on one of those days. And I had great conversations with people about, right? So it's like, we're in here making jokes, profanity jokes, going to parties, having fun, living it up, crazy food. But then 2 seconds later, two guys just really digging deep about what's really important in life, where they're having struggles, where they're having challenges. And then another guy comes in, oh, yeah, I went through that. Come over here. Let's walk for 3 hours. Right.
And
And
just chat it out.
yeah, it was crazy. It was awesome. So, man, I'm super pumped to do it again. We do the hike every other year, and my heart's really calling right now to do a father-son hike in 2025. Right. So same thing, group of business leaders, dads with kids in a certain age range, as well as just
I would definitely take my kids to that.
physical ability range. Right. Your kids got to be able to hike that kind of mileage. But I'm so pumped for that. That's going to be amazing. And then we've got ultimate immersion coming up 2024. which is just, it's a totally different kind of amazing trip.
I'll let you talk about that here in a
Yeah.
second as we
Well,
close out. Um, I want to say thank you. So for those of you that have ever done a massive project or event like this, it's a lot. It's a big undertaking, and dude, Matt pulled out all the stops. Like every step of the way, there was the small little details. He mentioned it earlier about he had these envelopes, and starting on day one when we first got to Sadia, right after dinner, and every day afterwards, we got an envelope. And it was at the start of it was routine, and I was looking forward to it. We would get up, we'd have breakfast, we'd come outside, we'd do our stretches, we'd pull out the envelope. He'd hand out all of our envelopes for that day, and it would talk about what's our intentions for the day, right? And I like intentions. It's very stoic, right? And I started reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He talks a lot about writing down your intentions, not your goals, but your intentions. Who do you plan to be today, this week, this month?
yes. Mhm.
And I liked that. And then we would pray, and then
Yeah.
we would go off. And it was like it was this routine, and it was so good. And the little touches and what you wrote was just so impactful. It was thoughtful. And and then he went a step above. And so he reached out to a buddy of mine, uh, Kevin, and he was like, "Hey, I got an idea. I want to reach out to Greg's ex-wife and see if she'd be okay with, his kids writing him a letter and having them, and I'll give it to him on the trip."
Mhm.
And you had them, and you forgot that you had them. And you remembered when we were driving to the airport together, just you and I,
Yeah.
trying to get to the airport on time to leave Spain. And,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Dude, I got a surprise for you. I surprise, I forgot." And I was like, "Okay, okay." I was like, "Oh, okay, what's this?" And I thought it was gonna be like a funny story. I didn't know, you know. And he pulls out of his bag and he gives it to me. And both of my boys had written these letters to me. And man, it was the most thoughtful thing that anyone had ever done. And it hit me. It hit me, man, so emotionally and spiritually. And it was
But you didn't cry.
no, not at all.
No. Neither did I.
No, it was, dude. I was blown away, man. I was so blown away.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Thank
it's
you. Thank you
yeah.
for letting me do that, because that was, again, you were kind of the unknown participant. And I'm like, I'm going to call this guy's ex-wife that I don't really know. I don't know what she's going to say. I don't know how this is going to go. I was talking to Emily about it. She's like, just do it. She's like, just do it. So yeah. It
I
was,
was like, you're like, "I hope you don't get mad." I was like, "No, man, I'm not gonna get mad." Oh, it was so touching, and
yeah.
to read my boys' letters, and my oldest son was just like, "Dad, you got this. Go crush that walk. Go crush the hike. I believe in you." And I was just like, man, it was really touching. And so, you were an example of like how to run a masterclass event such as that in another country with people that don't speak the language, and get all these people from different walks of life to connect and have an experience unlike any other.
Thanks, man. Thank
So,
you.
for those of you that are interested or hear this and you're like, "That's interesting. Like, I'd love to do that." Um, then reach out to me. You can DM me. You can also reach out to Matt
Yeah.
and connect with him. Matt, what's your Instagram? What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way, I'm on social media. So Instagram, it's Matthew Shoup. But if you go to mattshoup.com, you can learn all about the two adventures that we've got coming up. You can connect social media that way for sure, or just matt@mattshoup.com email.
And next year he has in April, correct?
Yeah, it's end of April, April 27th through May 5th is Ultimate Immersion Experience.
Mhm. So go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about that and what the plan is, and give them a teaser.
Yeah, it's a totally different kind of experience. So Spain for me, I lived dead center Madrid, right outside Madrid, in a little city called Alcalá de Henares. So it's a pretty, stereotypical Madrid suburb. The Camino is up northwest Spain. You're hiking, you're walking, you're talking. Great food. It's the Galicia region. It's very rainy, very green. Very very Celtic, right? And then you have more of the like stereotypical southern Spain, right? The fun, the sun, the beaches. There's different kinds of food, different kinds of cuisine, and I have an affinity for both. So ultimate immersion, to really break that down, is that's really designed for same kind of thing, right? A busy business leader, business owner, business professional, and they want to still unplug and still disconnect, but not to go take this physical challenge of a 72-mile hike, but a combination of three things instead. So it's adventures, challenges, and experiences, all once in a lifetime, right? And this is not like an Apple Vacations package. You can go do that for a fourth of the cost. Just call Apple Vacations, go hang with the 35 tourists on the bus with the flag. There's 6 participants, me and another facilitator, and then we'll have somebody documenting it. But think of Amazing Race if you've ever watched that show. You guys are going to drop down into Spain. We're going to meet up, and you're really not going to know where we're going to be going, but everything's going to be, first class, high end, great food, great accommodations, and you're going to have challenges. You're going to open envelopes, but instead of an intentional discussion it's going to be a challenge where there'll be a little money in the envelope, and I'm going to ask you to go do some things that are really going to push you and challenge you way out of your comfort zone. Nothing will kill you, but it's going to be very, very uncomfortable. And you will get to do that with somebody that I partner you with in the group that you may know, you may not know, because those 6 people are coming from wherever they come from, right? Through me. Then from there, we're going to go experience the fun, the sun, the food, the culture, right? So the sights and all of that stuff, but with people that I have really deep relationships in Spain. So there will be really intentionally curated experiences. One that I'm really excited about, it's a new one. Everybody signs an NDA, a non-disclosure, because this family that I have this 20-year almost relationship with, they're going to open a part of their family's history and Spain's history to us. And that's it, literally to nine people. That's not ever open to anybody again, never was, never will be. And I can't tell you what it is because it's a surprise, but things like that, right? You're going to get to see Spain in a really magical way, meeting some amazing people. And then there's just the leadership overlays as we wrap these things up. We really enjoy the meals together. Breakfasts are usually small and short, but the lunches and dinners, they're a couple hours long. We sit there, we debrief on what we've learned, what kind of challenges we're having, and then we're really recognizing within everybody else, the strengths that they have and the growth that we see there. So it really is, it's an ultimate immersion. You're being immersed in the culture in a really fun, fast, unique way. And again, experience of a lifetime.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm
so excited about it.
I'm really looking at it. I think I might do it. I definitely want to go to Spain again. I want to take my kids on the Camino. And if this is something that you're looking at this and you're like, you know what, I'd love to do something like that, immerse myself. I can tell you that by the end, the last 2 days, I found myself speaking more Spanish and like really pushing my limits and trying to speak more and having very broken conversations, but enough conversations that people knew what I was saying and I knew what they were saying. Just by being in that culture every single day and going to all these different locations that we were going to and speaking with all these different people. It was awesome. It was amazing. So,
what's cool? I want to share one last memory because we we had these passports and we did kind of a special activity about recognizing the leadership qualities we see in other members within the team. And I'll kind of stop there because I don't want to give too much about the fine detail of, like, it was fun. It was
fun. I like that a lot.
And really heart touching the way we did that. So we're sitting there, final dinner, right, in Alcalá that last night. And a lot of this stuff was all put together. I've got a really great friend. His name's Javi, and he owns a restaurant, but his family owns and knows all of the other restaurant owners, like they're well known in town. So he comes in and has dinner with us at this other great friend's restaurant. And he comes up and we had already ordered a big spread of food and we're getting pretty full. And then these 2 ridiculously massive steaks come out to the table. And I'm like, Greg, did you order those? Because usually you ordering the extra steak, and it wasn't. And Javi's like, those are on me. Like, this is, top quality stuff. And, he's just sitting there. He goes, I'm paying for those. And these are for you guys. And it was just so cool to see, like, you and I are driving, right, racing back to his restaurant while he's making us lunch. And he's like, don't worry, just send your people over. I got them covered.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we need to do something special for Javi, like we need to let him know what we recognize in him. He don't speak a lick of English, right? you guys don't speak enough Spanish to be able to like deeply communicate like this appreciation for him. And you've known him what, 6 hours at this point,
Yeah.
right? So we went around the table and everybody just shared how much they love this guy that they just met. You
Yeah.
know, he's across the world. You never would have known him if it wasn't for coming on this. And then I'm just translating. And dude, you know, guys are all getting teary-eyed, and you could just see the love and appreciation and this deep relationship. Like anytime you go pop back into that cafe in Spain, anybody else, that guy's got you, you
Yeah.
know. And same here. And that's one of the beautiful things just about travel and going to other countries and forming those relationships. But that was super cool. Same with Conchita at the end of the Camino, you know, when we did the little ceremony, right? The little quemada ceremony. And it was just so cool for you guys to meet some of those really important people that I've gotten to know for a long time.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. The experiences that you get when you travel to a country. Because I've been to other countries before, but I didn't have experiences like that with with people like that.
Yeah.
Because I did do the like Apple style vacations kind of thing,
Mhm.
where it's just like you're with a bunch of American tourists and you go see a site and you talk to other Americans, and then you're from Tennessee. I used to be from Tennessee. Now I got a new friend or whatever, but I didn't
Yeah.
really connect with locals, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this was a completely different experience. And so highly recommend, reach out to Matt, hit him on Instagram, hit me on Instagram at Gregory A. Birch _ if you want to learn more about it. I'll connect you with Matt as well. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Man, thank you. And just thank you for, after literally from January podcast recording #1 to we're going to Spain. I really just appreciate the trust in me and throwing yourself in there and out there and what you brought. I mean, you brought so much value. I think the other thing is, anybody who comes on this, or your money back, right? Like there's a 100% guarantee you are going to get so much out of this, but what everybody brought to the experience, the value that you were able to bring was really touching, man, in a lot of ways for a lot of people. So you keep doing what you're doing too, my man.
I appreciate it. Anytime. If you watch this and you got any value from it, then do us a favor. Share this content with another person that can learn from it, that wants to go to Spain or to another country, and they just want to know what it's like to experience when you go to another country and you have experiences with the locals. Maybe that'll inspire them to take a step forward and actually do it. Takes you 30, 60 seconds to do rate, review, subscribe, and share, but it means the world to both Matt and I. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time. We'll see you.